Hi folks, welcome to the DC Comics Silver and Bronze Age podcast. I'm your host Larry, and I'll be your intrepid guide as we delve into DC Comics' rich history, and together we'll thrill to the adventures of your favorite DC Comics superheroes. So, grab your favorite soft drink and treats and get comfortable as we take a closer look at a comic book from DC Comics' past. Let's get started. Actually, folks, before we get into the meat and bones of today's installment, I think it's far past due to offer an apology to all the valued subscribers and listeners of this podcast. For the past several months, I hadn't uploaded any podcast episodes, nor did I offer any updates or messages concerning the status of the channel, and for that I offer my sincerest regrets and apologies for that gross oversight. For better or worse, unfortunately, real life had gotten in the way of any steady progress for the podcast, and trying to produce any episodes with my busy work schedule during the summer months was becoming next to impossible. What little time I did have was mostly spent doing other things, and I ended up neglecting the podcast itself. Now that the lazy, hazy, and nearly unbearable days of summer are thankfully drawing to a close, I can get back to paying considerably more attention to producing and uploading more episodes to the channel with reliable regularity. I want to also offer a heartfelt thank you to those who were very patient with me and who stuck around despite the lack of content, and hopefully will continue to stick with me as we go forward. I think it goes without saying that with your continued encouragement and support, we can make the podcast a success in the growing months ahead. Again, to all of you, I thank you very much. Let me tell you, folks, for what I have planned for the next collection of upcoming installments, they'll be featuring the Dark Knight Detective Batman in celebration of his 80th year in DC Comics. Now, you fine folks out there might be thinking, well, Larry, aren't you doing this a little late in the year? Well, it's better late than never in this case, and to be honest, I had planned on creating a special series featuring Batman months ago, so I suppose now would be a good time as any to start. Besides, Batman's anniversary started way back on March the 30th of this year, so I think there is still time left to celebrate. With that in mind, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the show and get it underway, shall we? During the Silver and Bronze Ages of DC Comics' rich history, we're talking about at least 30-odd years to choose from where Batman is concerned. One would have to think the task of choosing an issue to start the series would be difficult, if not damn near impossible. However, I believe the significant story I want to feature would be a strong and quite remarkable initial offering. So, why is the story I'll be talking about so remarkable? Well, it's simple, really. Back in May of 1983, Detective Comics number 526 represented the 500th appearance of the Caped Crusader in the title. So today we'll be taking a look at the story called All My Enemies Against Me. The story for this special issue was presented by none other than the stalwart bat scribe, Jerry Conway. Tasked with the penciling for the interior art was legendary artist Don Newton. The inking chores to make the art pop with energy was Alfredo Alcala. The rich and layered coloring for every page was performed by Adrian Roy. The crisp and clear lettering was done by Ben Oda, and the co-editing for the title at that time was shared by Nicola Cuddy and remarkable scribe Len Wein. Batman's maniacal arch-nemesis, the Joker, has gathered a considerable number of the Caped Crusader's past foes to inform them of a plot to eliminate their mutually long-hated enemy, concocted by a rapidly rising crime lord in the ranks of Gotham City's underworld named Killer Croc. It's the Joker's intention to stop Croc and remove him before the ruthless reptilian-faced mobster can carry out his plan to take the honor of killing the Batman. But two women amongst the crowd of villains want no part in this sinister scheme: Talia al Ghul and Catwoman. Both women flee the scene to warn Batman of the impending murder plot before they can be stopped by any of the crooks. In the meantime, Dick Grayson has learned the parents of Jason Todd are searching for the elusive Killer Croc's hideout, and Dick brings young Jason Todd to Wayne Manor for safekeeping. Also, Commissioner Gordon and his daughter Barbara are investigating the meeting place where the escaped villains had gathered. Barbara finds a vital clue and goes to Wayne Manor as Batgirl to tell Batman and Robin of her discovery. She meets with Robin, and together they set out to find the criminals, and to track down the Todds at the same time. At the same time, Batman is confronted in the Batcave by the unexpected arrival of not only Talia al Ghul, but also Catwoman, both women warning him of the others' involvement in the plot to murder him. After a heated confrontation, Batman separates the two adventurers and decides to team up with them to track down the escaped villains before they can cause any havoc in the city. The rather unlikely trio sets out in the dark streets, first encountering the team of Riddler, Mad Hatter, the Cavalier, and the Scarecrow, then defeating the team of Mr. Freeze, Black Spider, Signalman, and the Spook. All captured villains are sent into police custody. Back at Wayne Manor, while the dynamic duo and Batgirl are rounding up the escaped crooks, Jason Todd accidentally discovers the entrance to the Batcave and quickly investigates it. He also deduces that Bruce Wayne and Batman are one and the same man. The youth also finds an old, colorful outfit that Dick wore when he was a young aerialist at Haley's Circus and puts it on. Out in the city, Robin and Batgirl learn Killer Croc's lair is at the Gotham City Zoo and races there, only to find Commissioner Gordon with a squad of officers at the scene of a horrific double murder, the remains of Joe and Trina Todd left behind in the alligator pit, to be eaten by the vicious alligators. Driven into a fit of rage by the shock and horror of what he saw, Robin launches into the alligator pit to ward off the predatory animals, then is overwhelmed by grief and guilt over the Todd's murder. Killer Croc is contacted by the Joker at the Gotham City Men's Club to propose a deal to give exclusive chance for the ruthless gangster to kill the Batman, and Croc agrees, unaware that the Harlequin of Hate is secretly planning to double-cross the facially disfigured crook. Back inside the Batcave, Batman, Catwoman, and Talia uncover where the next location the costume villains will strike next, and head to that place in the Batmobile, unaware that the sleek vehicle's trunk is hiding an unexpected passenger in the form of a costumed Jason Todd. At the same moment, in the midst of rousting crooks for information, Robin and Batgirl discover the same location and race to it as well. Arriving at Adam's Brewery, Batman, along with his charming fighting partners, find several more of the villains already beaten senseless and soon learn too late that they all have been lured into a deadly trap. Croc's henchmen, with the Joker on hand to watch the ensuing drama take place, capture and tie all three adventurers to a large brewing vat rigged to build up an overload of pressure to explode and destroy them. Batman tempts Croc with the opportunity to fight him if Croc will allow the women to go free. Much to the Joker's dismay, Croc accepts the challenge, untying Batman, and the hated foes face off in a fight to the finish. Meanwhile, Jason Todd sneaks out of the Batmobile's trunk and enters the brewery to investigate, observing from a high vantage point the tremendous battle between Batman and Killer Croc, just as Robin and Batgirl come upon the scene of Batman's fight with the notorious and upcoming gangster, after dispatching a handful of villains. During the titanic struggle, Robin reveals to Batman that Croc was responsible for the vicious murder of the Todds. Just as Croc was ready to deliver a killing blow to Batman, Jason Todd descends from the rafters and drops down on Croc, knocking the crook off balance so Batman can deliver a knockout punch. Overwhelmed with grief and anger over finding the killer was responsible for murdering his parents, Jason attacks the unconscious Croc in a fit of rage, but is held back by Robin and Batgirl. All the villains, including the Joker and Killer Croc, are defeated, but the bittersweet victory comes at a huge cost. Jason Todd is now left an orphan. As the costumed crooks are returned to the confines of prison and Arkham Asylum, and an uncertain peace is once more restored to Gotham City, at Wayne Manor the next day, Dick Grayson has taken responsibility for the Todd's untimely death, and goes so far as to consider adopting Jason. Bruce tells Dick that he remembers the pain and sorrow Dick went through when he lost his own parents, and by extension, when Bruce had lost his own parents to violent crime. For now, at least, Jason has the chance to be accepted into Bruce Wayne's life, and what that might entail for this foreseeable future remains to be seen. Well, that's quite an exciting and thrilling story we have there, don't we, folks? I can't say this enough, that this is one of my favorite Batman stories during the 80s, and I cannot recommend this comic book enough to anyone who is a Batman fan to pick up a back issue of it from your local comic book shop. Or if you're unable to track down a physical copy, but then by all means search out this story in digital form. You will not regret it, I promise you. I think what makes this Batman story unique and interesting is that we get a good glimpse of the strange power dynamics of the Gotham City underworld, and the place for power and control of crime amongst its more colorful and eccentric members. The plot and counterplot byplay going on between the Joker and Killer Croc makes the narrative worth sticking around for, to see who will come out on top to get the honor of getting rid of Batman once and for all. Certainly the old saying, honor amongst thieves, doesn't hold true in any meaningful sense where the Joker is concerned, and certainly with the other costume criminals as well. And also certainly in Killer Croc's case. Both criminals vying for top spot in the Gotham City criminal hierarchy, and each competing with the other to kill Batman, and basically they would stop at nothing to attain that dreadful goal, regardless of who they use or what methods they employ to achieve said goal. The Joker was so ruthless in attempting to stop Killer Croc from killing Batman and trying to get that glory for himself that he was willing to set up a temporary truce between himself and the upcoming crime lord, just so that he could later on sacrifice Croc to the authorities to achieve his nefarious ends once Batman was dead. The Harlequin of Hate was also very ruthless and deceitful to convince the rest of the escaped villains from prison and Arkham Asylum that they join him in his scheme to stop Croc, never realizing until it was too late that they themselves were to be sacrificed for the Joker so that he could come out on top. However, even the best laid plans of even the most diabolically demented of Gotham City's eccentric criminals can often go awry, such is the case with the story featured. So yes, I guess it's true in Gotham City. There's no honor amongst any of the costume crooks. They cannot trust each other, nor can they even trust someone like the Joker, where that maniacal crook is concerned. I suppose my analysis of Detective Comics number 526 would not be complete without taking a few moments to talk about the artwork in this spectacular story. Along with legendary artist Gene Colan, I would have to say Don Newton is my favorite Batman artist. I can't say enough good things about Don Newton's art style, and it perfectly captures the mood and atmosphere of any Batman story Newton was working on. Depending on the inker working with Newton, his art in subsequent stories varied in dynamic quality, but his most frequently used inker was Alfredo Alcala, who complemented Newton's art style very well. Don Newton started working on penciling for both Batman titles, starting sporadically on Detective Comics number 480 from December of 1978 until he took over penciling for the Batman title, drawing the Batman backup story in issue 305, then working sporadically until working on a semi-regular basis starting with issue 352. His final issue drawing the Dark Knight Detective was in Batman number 379 in January of 1985. The issue was posthumously published after Don Newton passed away from a massive heart attack on August the 19th, 1984. Speaking in terms of the artwork for Detective Comics number 526, I don't think there could have been a better artist for this anniversary issue than Don Newton himself, and every panel, every page of art speaks volumes to his energetic style. All the villains, heroes, heroines, and supporting characters get their moments to shine, but Batman, Robin, Batgirl, and Jason Todd, with the Joker and Killer Croc, receive special attention to detail. The fight scenes where Batman, Robin, and Batgirl play out into every panel with verve and energy, and even the quiet moments capture the mood of what the heroes and villains are experiencing in the moment. So once again, as a service to you listeners out there, if you can get your hands on a copy of this issue, by all means go and get it. The artwork alone is enough to sustain your interest for the story inside. Now, as with the other previous episodes of the podcast, we've come to the portion of the show where we take a look at the notable events for the year in question. So here's a rundown of some important events during May of 1983. May the 6th, Stern magazine publishes the Hitler Diaries, which are later found to be forgeries. May the 11th, Aberdeen FC defeat Real Madrid 2-1 after extra time to win the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1983 and become only the third Scottish side to win a European trophy. May the 14th, Dundee United FC are crowned champions of Scotland for the first time in their history by winning the Scottish Premier Division on the final day of the league season at the home of their city rivals Dundee FC in Dennis Park. May the 17th, Lebanon, Israel, and the United States sign an agreement on Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon. Also on May the 17th, the New York Islanders beat the Edmonton Oilers 4-0 to win the Stanley Cup. On May the 20th, two separate research groups led by Robert Gallo and Luc Montagnier independently declared that a novel retrovirus may have been infecting people with HIV/AIDS and published their findings in the same issue of the journal Science. Also on that day, Church Street bombing. A car bombing in Pretoria, South Africa, kills 19 people. It had been planted by members of the Umkhonto we-Sizwe, a military wing of the African National Congress. On May the 25th, The Return of the Jedi opens in theaters. On May the 26th, the 7.8 magnitude Sea of Japan earthquake shakes northern Honshu with a maximum Mercalli intensity of 8, which is severe. A destructive tsunami is generated that leaves about 100 people dead. On May the 27th, Benton fireworks disaster, an explosion at an unlicensed fireworks operation near Benton, Tennessee, kills 11 and injures 1. The blast was heard within a radius of 30 kilometers, 19 miles. On May the 29th, Neil Bonnet wins the 24th running of the World 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And finally, on May the 31st, the Philadelphia 76ers defeat the LA Lakers to sweep the NBA championship in 4 games. Now on the entertainment front, the year 1983 was yet another great year for Hollywood, giving the movie-going public what they wanted, and that is great films to watch. It just went to show you that the summer blockbuster phenomenon was in full swing once more, and the movie-going public could not get enough. It should also be noted that 1983 was a landmark year in that more films carried the R rating than any other previous year. As with the other lists of highest-grossing films featured on previous shows, it should come as no surprise the films mentioned will be very familiar. Starting in descending order along the way to the number 1 spot for the top films in 1983, we have number 10, Risky Business from Warner Brothers, number 9, Mr. Mom from 20th Century Fox, number 8, Staying Alive from Paramount, number 7, Sudden Impact from Warner Brothers, number 6, Octopussy from MGM, and also number 5, War Games, also from MGM, number 4, Trading Places from Paramount, number 3, Flashdance, also from Paramount. Number 2, Terms of Endearment, once again from Paramount as well. And the number 1 box office smash hit for the year 1983 goes to the third and final installment of what is arguably one of the greatest film franchises of the late 70s and early 80s, the original Star Wars trilogy. Once again, director George Lucas made a box office triumph, making Return of the Jedi from 20th Century Fox the highest-grossing film of the year, with a domestic return of $252,583,617. As far as American broadcast television was concerned, amongst the notable events going on in 1983 on broadcast television, we have the following. On January the 3rd, Plinko is added to it as a pricing game on the CBS game show The Price is Right. It will go on to become one of the most popular of the show's games. On February the 13th, Marvin Gaye performs a soulful rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner at the NBA All-Star Game at the Forum in Los Angeles. On February the 28th, more than 125 million Americans watched the 251st and final episode of MASH on CBS, titled Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. On March the 10th, MTV broadcasts the video of Michael Jackson's song Billie Jean for the first time. The video is the first by a black artist to gain great airplay on MTV and is credited with helping the album Thriller, in which the song is included to become the best-selling album of all time. On May the 16th, the concert special Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, and Forever is broadcast on NBC. Michael Jackson, after a performance with the Jackson 5, provides the centerpiece highlight by performing to Billie Jean his moonwalk dance for the first time on television. On June the 16th, Pope John Paul II arrives in his native Poland, with ABC and NBC broadcasting his arrival live on air. On September the 5th, PBS's series The McNeil-Lehrer Report becomes the McNeil-Lehrer News Hour, the first American network news program to expand from a half an hour to 1 hour in length. Also, Tom Brokaw becomes the sole main anchor of the NBC Nightly News, ending a 17-month stint co-anchoring the broadcast with Roger Mudd. And Peter Jennings becomes the sole anchorman of ABC's newscast World News Tonight after the death of Frank Reynolds 2 months earlier. On September the 12th, the animated G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero miniseries based on the toys of the same name debuts in syndication. Another miniseries airs the following year, with an ongoing show premiering in 1985. On October the 10th, Adam, a TV movie about the mysterious disappearance of Adam Walsh, makes its world premiere on NBC. The broadcast ends with a series of missing children's photographs and descriptions, along with a telephone number viewers can call to provide information on their disappearances. On November the 24th, Sesame Street on PBS dealt with the sensitive issue of death when Big Bird learns of the concept as it relates to his late friend Mr. Hooper. Will Lee, the actor who played Mr. Hooper, died of a heart attack on November of 1982. December the 2nd, the epic, nearly 14 minutes music video for Michael Jackson's Thriller is broadcast for the first time. It will become the most often repeated and famous music video of all time, and increase Jackson's own popularity and the sales of his record album, Thriller. On the pop music scene, 1983 was the beginning of what might be considered the second British invasion in pop music, with many acts and bands from across the pond joining in a wave of singles and albums gaining massive hits on the pop charts, starting in 1983 and for at least the next few years ahead. Many of the most popular acts and artists, mostly from Britain, would gain dominance on the charts over the next few years. Among them including Duran Duran, the Eurythmics, the Culture Club, David Bowie, the Human League, Phil Collins, Genesis, and many others. Many American acts and artists would also find great success on the charts in that year and subsequent years, in both albums and singles. American acts such as Hall & Oates, Lionel Richie, Toto, Prince, Journey, Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, Huey Lewis and the News, and of course Michael Jackson, among others, would achieve great success starting in 1983 and in the succeeding years in the 1980s. So, the top 10 singles for the year, according to Billboard magazine, from descending order, we have number 10, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This by the Eurythmics. Number 9, Maniac by Michael Sambello. Number 8, Baby Come to Me by Patty Austin and James Ingram. Number 7, Man Eater by Hall & Oates. Number 6, Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler. Number 5, Beat It by Michael Jackson. Number 4, Down Under by Men at Work. Number 3, Flashdance, What a Feeling by Irene Cara. Number 2, Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. And the number 1 hit single for the year 1983, according to Billboard magazine, from the British trio who brought out their 5th and final studio award-winning album, Synchronicity, one of the biggest and most popular singles of the 1980s. It is The Police with Every Breath You Take. So I guess we've come to the end of this first episode of my special series relating to Batman. And next week's episode will feature the Penguin, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Now, before I say goodbye to you fine listeners out there, I'd like to thank everybody who listened to this, and I invite you to stick with me as I continue this podcast, and especially continuing with this series of Batman-related episodes. Now, if you would be so kind, please like and subscribe to this channel for more episodes, and if you have any comments or suggestions, then please feel free to post them in the comments section below. It would be greatly appreciated. Alright, so thank you very much again, everybody, and until next time, this is Larry for the DC Comics Silver and Bronze Age podcast. So long for now.